Hello, my sweet babies. We're trying something a little different today. We are going to do a play with me, our first play with me in a series of a million play with me's, hopefully. I just got this. I figured y'all might want to join me in putting this together. I didn't want to put it together alone. Plus, it's Halloween. So I am now scrubbed, ready for bed, and we are ready to go. I thought this might be kind of fun with a play with me, okay?
All right, my little sweeties, let's all get nice and comfy. Get all your stuffies and any sort of drinks or snacks that you need. And now it's time for Halloween story time. I'm making this so that you have something to listen to when you just want to get into little space, or you want to color, or you want to clean your house. Whatever you want to do, sweethearts, I'm here for you. The following are 11 little Halloween stories or spoopy stories that I picked just for you. They go from tame to, well, still tame, but a little bit older. They are Mickey and Friends, The Haunted Halloween, Peter Pan, A Trick for Hook, Wreck-It Ralph's, Tricky Treats, Monsters, Inc., The Spooky Sleepover, Winnie the Pooh's Boo to You, Winnie the Pooh, Big Hero 6's Trick or Treat, Tangled's Marmalade Moonlight. Then comes not the older ones, but just more fun alliteration maybe? I don't know. There Was an Old Lady Who Said Trick or Treat. Then we have a classic, Room on the Broom. And then one that's a little spoopy. For me, I like this one. Millie Fleur Saves the Night. And then, of course, an oldie but goodie, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. All right, my little loves, here we go. Mickey and Friends, The Haunted Halloween. Mickey Mouse thought about what a great Halloween party he was going to have with all his friends. He decorated with cobwebs and jack-o'-lanterns. Everything will look nice and spooky, he said. I bet Minnie will love it. Mickey knew he had an old pirate costume packed away in the attic. He climbed up the creaky ladder and turned on the light. I bet my pirate costume is in here. Mickey's key turned easily in the rusty lock, but dust swirled up around the trunk. It looked awfully spooky. He lifted the lid of the trunk, and a scary figure suddenly towered over him. "Ag!" Mickey shouted. Then he realized it was just a plastic decoration. Meanwhile, in the backyard, Pluto was chasing a ball near the clothesline full of fresh laundry. As Pluto charged after it, one of the sheets fell on top of him. It covered him from head to tail. At that moment, Donald, Goofy, Minnie, and Daisy arrived at Mickey's house. They were all dressed in their Halloween costumes. In the backyard, Pluto was still stuck under the sheet. He tried to feel his way towards the doggy door. "What's that sound?" Daisy whispered. Just then, something white ran past the window. "It's a ghost!" she cried. Mickey's friends were too scared to even scream. In the attic, Mickey lit a candle and put on his pirate costume. He headed down the staircase. Mickey's friends looked up to see the shadow of a horrible monster coming toward them. "Oh no!" Donald screamed as the others hid behind a chair. Donald dove onto the chair and hid under a pillow. The friends prepared for the worst. "Hi, everybody," Mickey said. Mickey's friends stared at him in shock. "Oh, Mickey, it's just you!" cried Minnie. "You really scared us." "We thought you were a ghost!" Goofy exclaimed. "That's one scary costume," Donald said with a shiver. "I'm sorry, gang," Mickey said. "I didn't mean to scare you." "Don't worry, Mickey," Daisy said. "This is the scariest, most exciting haunted house ever." Mickey was confused. He had put up decorations, but the house wasn't haunted. He didn't think. Just then, Pluto ran through the living room. Mickey and his friends looked up and saw a ghost. And boy, did they scream this time. "Arf!" barked Pluto. "Oh, Pluto, it's just you," said Mickey. Mickey turned to his friends and grinned. You're right. This has been the scariest Halloween ever. The end. Peter Pan, a trick for Hook. One evening in Neverland, Wendy realized it was All Hallows Eve. What's that? Peter Pan asked. It's a holiday for spooky things, John said. We always hollow out a turnip, give it a face, and put a candle inside. You know, Wendy said, they say that All Hallows Eve is the night that all ghosts come out. Peter's eyes widened. I love ghosts, he cried. Are they scary ghosts? Wendy nodded. That's spooky, Peter said. Look, I've got goosebumps. The children all piled into Peter's hideout as Wendy continued describing All Hallows Eve. People play tricks on each other and tell spooky stories. I've got it, Peter said. We'll play an All Hallows Eve trick on Captain Hook. Peter found an old white sheet and a pirate's hat. There's one thing all pirates fear, and that's the ghost of an old sea dog. Who's that? Wendy asked nervously. He's a legend. He was supposed to have been the wickedest and cruelest of all the pirates. And we're going to make Captain Hook think the ghost of the old sea dog is haunting Neverland, Peter said. Peter, Tinker Bell, Wendy, and the boys snuck down to the beach. When they reached the water, Tinker Bell sprinkled Wendy and the boys with pixie dust. They rose into the air, gliding silently above the waves. Soon they had reached the Jolly Roger. Aboard the Jolly Roger, Hook shifted from one foot to the other. The shuffle of his boot heels on the deck was loud. All Hallows Eve, Hook muttered to himself. I hate All Hallows Eve. What's that, Captain? Came an unexpected response from the shadows. Hook jumped into the air. Smee, he yelled. Don't sneak up on me like that. Sorry, Captain, Smee said. Hidden from sight, Peter winked at Wendy. Ooh, Peter moaned softly, still hidden at the side of the ship. What's that? Captain Hook called sharply. It is I, Peter said, rising quickly from the deck. The old sea dog. The pirates screamed. Laughing, the children fled as fast as they could. Where's Peter? Wendy asked when they landed. Let's go back. Maybe he'll meet us there. As they approached Peter's hideout, they could see an eerie glow through the trees. Boo! Wendy gasped as a ghastly face appeared in front of them. It was a floating turnip? I tricked you, crowed someone with a familiar voice. Peter stepped out of the shadows, laughing so hard he was clutching his sides. Happy All Hallows Eve. He had a turnip on a rope. What a silly. This one is from Wreck-It Ralph, and it's called Tricky Treats. Happy Halloween, Vanellope! Vanellope von Schweetz grinned. She had invited her friend to Sugar Rush for Gloyd's annual Halloween party. Let's go for a ride! Whoosh! They were off. Woo! Vanellope whooped as they tore around a sharp corner. Ralph yelled. He clutched the fender to keep from falling off. Vanellope laughed. Then Ralph yelled again, and this time he sounded really surprised. A pumpkin had hit Ralph's head. Vanellope looked around. Where are we? Ralph and Vanellope were somewhere unfamiliar, somewhere spooky. This must be the Halloween bonus level where Boo Bratley lives. I thought it was just a myth, Vanellope yelled. Woo! Vanellope and Ralph jumped a mile. A marshmallow ghost had appeared out of nowhere. It's him, Vanellope pointed to the ghost. The meanest, brattiest ghost in all of Sugar Rush. The ghost floated straight through the graham cracker castle doors and out of sight. Come on, Vanellope yelled as Ralph opened the castle doors and climbed back onto the cart. Vanellope and Ralph zoomed into the castle. Boo Bratley flew farther and farther ahead of them. Bet you can't catch me, Boo Bratley shouted. Vanellope stomped on the gas and they sped through the castle at lightning speed. Finally, Boo Bratley floated right through a wall with no doors or windows. Hold on, Ralph, Vanellope yelled. She gunned the engine so they could drive up the chocolate stone wall. But midway up the wall, the cart started to fall. It wasn't supposed to carry that much weight. Vanellope and Ralph crashed to the ground. We're never going to get out of here, Ralph said. I have an idea, Vanellope said. She whispered it into Ralph's ear so Boo Bratley couldn't hear. Ralph grinned. He raised his fists and started smashing at the chocolate walls. Stones cracked and shards flew everywhere. Soon, Boo Bratley wasn't laughing anymore. Vanellope waited for just the right moment as Ralph distracted the ghost with his wrecking. Then she closed her eyes and concentrated. Zap! She glitched over to the other side of the wall where Boo was sneaking away. Vanellope tapped him on the shoulder. Got you! Sirens blared and a candy cane doorway appeared. Vanellope and Ralph had beaten the Halloween bonus level. Ready to go back to Sugar Rush? Vanellope asked. Boo Bratley floated up to them. Please don't go, he said. Won't you stay for a while? Suddenly, Boo didn't look bratty anymore. Now he just looked lonely. Nobody comes to play with me here. His eyes glistened with marshmallow fluff tears. Vanellope nodded. We can stay for a little while. After a few games, it was time for Ralph and Vanellope to head to Gloyd's party. Why don't you come with us, Boo? Ralph suggested. That's very kind, but I can't leave my castle, Boo explained sadly. Wait, I have an idea, Vanellope responded. Before long, Gloyd's Halloween party was in full swing at Boo Bratley's castle. The end. This next one is from Monsters, Inc., and it's called The Spooky Sleepover. One morning, the telephone rang at Monsters, Inc. We need a monster for the slumber party at Little Shannon Brown's house, a dispatcher told Sully. Sully knew exactly whom to send. His best friend, Mike Wazowski. Mike headed over right away, but when he walked into Shannon Brown's room, it was empty. Just then, a flash of lightning lit up the dark room. If there was one thing that scared Mike, it was thunderstorms. He raced back to the closet, but when he opened the door, it was still just a closet. He realized the lightning must have broken the door. Heading into the dark, Mike tried to follow the sound of laughter. I've got to get out of here, Mike muttered to himself. Suddenly, a creature jumped on him, knocking him over. It was a dog. Mike hated dogs. Back on the laugh floor, Sully found out Mike hadn't returned yet. When he checked the door, he realized it was broken. Sully and the monsters tried to get into Shannon's house using a new door. It worked. Now the door would open into a different room in the house. In the house, Mike opened another door. It led to the bathroom. He tripped on a rubber ducky. Suddenly, he heard giggling from down the hall. Mike did not like this assignment or this house, but he was determined to find the party. He followed the laughter to a door, but when he opened it, the room was quiet. Slowly, Mike entered the dark, silent room. All of a sudden, a light came on. Mike jumped. Shannon Brown and all her friends roared with laughter. They thought Mike looked funny sneaking into the room. At that moment, the closet door opened and Sully burst into the room. Mike screamed and jumped into Sully's arms. Sully screamed too. The girls laughed harder than ever. "Looks like our work here is done," Sully said with a smile. He and Mike headed back to the laugh floor. They had filled plenty of canisters with laughs. "I was never scared for a second," Mike said, hoping Sully would believe him. "Me neither, buddy," Sully replied, his big furry fingers crossed behind his back. "Me neither." The end. This next one is from Winnie the Pooh, and it's called Boo to You, Winnie the Pooh. It was Halloween in the 100-acre wood, and Winnie the Pooh was dressed in his bumblebee costume. Soon a skeleton Tigger bounced in following a mummy Eeyore. Meanwhile, at Piglet's house, Piglet stared at his costume, and the more he stared at it, the more scared he became. On the way to Piglet's, Pooh tried out his costume on his bee friends at the honey tree. But the bees knew what Pooh was up to. They buzzed, chasing Pooh and the others away. Nearby, Rabbit was working in his pumpkin patch. Buzz! He looked up to see Pooh, Tigger, and Eeyore, who crashed into his beautiful pumpkins. A short while later, there was a knock at Piglet's door. Who's there?" Piglet stammered, hoping it wasn't a spookable. Piglet was relieved to find Pooh at the door. "Ready for Halloween, Piglet?" asked Pooh. Piglet told Pooh he wasn't. He was too afraid. Pooh thought, then he said, "Instead of Halloween, we'll have Hallowasn't." After Pooh left, Piglet created notes telling all spookables to stay away, since he was celebrating Hallowasn't, not Halloween. When Pooh got home, he looked out his window. He hoped Piglet wasn't still scared. Then he had a thought. "We will spend Hallowasn't together." Pooh made a new Hallowasn't costume for his friends, and soon they were on their way. Right outside Piglet's house, a branch snagged Pooh's costume. "Help!" shouted Pooh. "Oh, dear!" Piglet cried when he looked out his window. "Spookables got Pooh!" "I'll save you," Piglet called, putting on his costume. He scrambled outside and shouted, "Boo!" "Run!" cried Tigger, Eeyore, and Pooh. Rabbit glanced up to see Pooh, Tigger, Eeyore, and Piglet running towards his pumpkin patch. "Not again!" he cried. Costumes and pumpkins flew everywhere. When they finally brushed themselves off, the friends all looked around. "You saved us," Pooh told Piglet. "You must have chased the spookables away." "Good job, Pigoletto," Tigger said. "But you're not dressed up for Halloween." Piglet smiled. "Oh, but I am," he said proudly. "I've decided to be Pooh's bravest friend." Big Hero 6's Trick or Treat. Everybody smile and say spooky. Hero and his friends posed as Aunt Cass took a picture. They were all celebrating Halloween together at the cafe. Aunt Cass smiled. "You all look great," she said. "Thanks again for helping with all the trick-or-treaters tonight." Fred shrugged. "No problem, Aunt Cass," he said. Then he turned to Hero. "What about Baymax? Why isn't he dressed up tonight?" "Baymax doesn't know much about Halloween," Hero said, "but he is all white. Maybe he could be a ghost." Baymax quickly looked up what a ghost was. "I am a robot," he said. "I cannot be a ghost." Just then, the bell on the cafe door jingled. 2 children stepped inside, dressed up for Halloween. Baymax looked at one of the trick-or-treaters. She was completely covered in bandages. "Your bandages indicate that you are injured," Baymax said. "I am here to help. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your pain?" The little girl giggled. "I'm not hurt," she said. "This is my costume. I'm a mummy." Baymax scanned the girl with his sensors. "I will scan you for injuries now. Scan complete. No injuries detected." he reported. The little girl giggled again. "Trick or treat," she exclaimed. Baymax paused and tipped his head to the side. "What is trick or treat?" he asked at last. Hero slapped his hand on his forehead. "I guess I should have told you more about Halloween, Baymax. Halloween is a holiday where kids walk door to door wearing costumes and saying, 'Trick or treat.' It's our job to give them a treat." Hero picked up a big bucket of candy and gave some to the trick-or-treaters. "Thank you," they said, and left the cafe. Baymax looked at the bucket of candy. "Eating candy can lead to tooth decay, high blood pressure, and other health problems," he said. "It is not good for health and well-being of a patient." "Well, yeah," Hero said, "but it's Halloween. Eating candy is a tradition." Baymax moved toward the kitchen. "I will find a better treat," he said. The bell on the door of the cafe jingled again, and another group of costumed kids came in. "Trick or treat," they yelled. Then Baymax reappeared. "I will give you a treat," he said. Baymax placed a stalk of broccoli into each trick-or-treater's bag. Broccoli is high in fiber and contains 17 important vitamins and minerals. "Yuck," one of the kids said. He looked at Hero. "Is this a trick, mister?" he asked. Hero quickly put candy into their bags. "Don't mind him," he said. "Baymax can't help himself. He's a healthcare robot. Here's some candy. Happy Halloween." Satisfied, the kids ran off. "Candy is not a healthy treat," Baymax told Hero. "Oh, Baymax," Hero said. "A little candy's okay once in a while." "It is important to maintain a balanced diet and active lifestyle," Baymax said. "Halloween is supposed to be fun, Baymax," Honey Lemon chimed in. "It wouldn't be the same without candy." That gave Hero an idea. "Come on, Baymax," he said. "Let's go trick-or-treating. Then you'll see what we mean." Soon, Hero and Baymax were walking down the street. "When you trick-or-treat, you walk from house to house," Hero explained. "Walking is healthy, right?" "Correct," Baymax replied. "However, more pedestrian accidents happen at night than during the day." Hero turned on the flashlight on his phone. "We'll be safe, Baymax, I promise," he said. The two climbed up the steps of a house decorated for Halloween. Hero rang the bell. "Here we go," he told Baymax. Soon a woman answered the door. "Trick or treat," Hero said. "Yes, trick or treat," Baymax added. The woman looked at Baymax. "Well, isn't that a fancy ghost costume you've got there?" she said. Then she put the candy in their treat bags. "Here you go." "Wasn't that fun, Baymax?" Hero asked as they walked back down the stairs. Baymax scanned Hero. "Your neurotransmitter levels are elevated. That indicates that you are happy. All that matters to me is the well-being of my patient." Hero sighed. "Whatever you say, Baymax. I guess you'll never understand how cool Halloween is." "Would it make you happy if I understood?" Baymax asked. "Your well-being is important to me." "Don't worry about it, Baymax," Hero said. Just then, a boy with a red nose walked past them. Baymax stopped the boy. "Your red nose indicates that you have a cold or may be suffering from allergies," Baymax said. "Allow me to scan you for injuries." "He's not sick, Baymax. That's just part of his costume," Hero explained. Baymax scanned the boy. "You are correct. There is no indication of a cold or an allergy. He is healthy." "Yeah, I feel great," the boy said. "It's Halloween." This gave Hero another idea. "Baymax," he said, "is he just healthy or is he happy too?" Baymax scanned the boy again. His endorphin levels and neurotransmitters indicate that he is experiencing happiness, he reported. "Well, happiness is important, right?" Hero asked. "Correct," Baymax replied. "Happiness can strengthen your immune system." "So now you see that Halloween's not so bad?" Hero asked. "I understand," Baymax said. "Halloween elevates people's emotional state. That is healthy." Hero hugged Baymax. "I knew you'd figure it out," he said, "and that makes me happy." Back at the cafe, Hero and Baymax greeted more trick-or-treaters. "I'll let you handle this one, buddy," Hero said. Baymax greeted each one with a wave. "Hello, hello, hello." He gave each trick-or-treater one piece of candy. Then, before they had a chance to leave, he added some broccoli to their baskets too. Hero groaned, "Baymax, I thought we agreed to not give out broccoli on Halloween." Baymax replied, "This treat is good for digestion, and that one elevates the emotional state of these patients." Hero shook his head. It seemed there were some battles he just couldn't win. Tangled in marmalade moonlight. Rapunzel sighed. Mother Gothel was away, leaving Rapunzel alone in the tower. Luckily, her best friend Pascal was there to keep her company. "What do you want to do now, Pascal?" Rapunzel asked. She'd spent the day brushing her hair, which took most of the afternoon, painting a new mural on the wall, and rereading her 3 books. Now it was growing dark. She glanced over at the dozing Pascal and laughed. "No, I don't think it's bedtime yet. I'm not very tired." Rapunzel strolled to the window and gasped. "Look at the moon, Pascal," Rapunzel exclaimed. "It looks like a giant bowl of marmalade." Just then, a flock of birds flew across the sky, making a strange face in the glowing moon. "Ooh, that is scary." Rapunzel shivered with glee. Suddenly, she had an idea. "I know! Let's make tonight Marmalade Moon Night. We can start our very own spooky holiday. Now we just need some creepy traditions." First, Rapunzel wanted to make a lantern that looked like a scary moon face. There was just one problem. There wasn't anything around the tower that was very lantern-like. "How about this?" Rapunzel asked, holding up a watermelon. Pascal watched as Rapunzel carefully started carving. "Ta-da!" Rapunzel said when she was finished. Pascal looked at her carved watermelon skeptically. All right, Rapunzel said. "It's not exactly spooky, but it's not bad for my first try." Rapunzel put it down on the table and stepped back to admire it. As soon as she let go, the watermelon rolled off the table, hit the floor, and smashed into pieces. "Humph," she said. "Remind me next time that moonamelons tend to roll." "Now let's play a game," Rapunzel said. She glanced at the rest of the items in the fruit bowl. "These look just like the marmalade moon," she said, picking up a few peaches. She filled a large tub with water and added the peaches, which floated to the surface. "Okay, Pascal," she said. "Try to pick one up, but no hands or feet. You can only use your mouth." Pascal seemed to think it over. Then his long tongue flicked out, lassoed a peach, and plucked it out of the water. Rapunzel laughed. "No fair," she cried, and then took a turn. She plunged her head into the water, mouth wide open. She came up coughing and sputtering without a peach. Rapunzel tried again and again, but each time the peaches bobbed away and out of her reach. Finally, she climbed into the tub, standing knee-deep in the water, and tried one more time. Once again, she just could not get her teeth on a peach. Overcome with frustration, Rapunzel plopped down in the water. She sloshed over the sides and spilled onto the floor. Now the peaches lay on the floor in a shallow puddle. Rapunzel leaned down, bit into one, and picked it up. "Aha!" she cried victoriously, taking the peach out of her mouth. "It's much easier this way." While Pascal munched on his peach, Rapunzel snuck away to put her next spooky idea into action. "Perfect," she said, peering into the linen cupboard. A few minutes later, Rapunzel crept out of hiding by candlelight. "Boo! I am the marmalade moon ghost," she said, whipping a bedsheet around her. Pascal took one look at the figure that suddenly appeared and panicked. "Boo!" Rapunzel repeated, but her friend was nowhere to be seen. "Pascal," she called out. Realizing she may have really scared him, she added, "I'm sorry. This was supposed to be fun, not scary." Where was he? Pascal peeked around cautiously from his hiding spot. He saw it really was Rapunzel under the sheet, and he breathed a sigh of relief. He started to move from his hiding spot at the same time Rapunzel spotted him right in front of her. "Ah!" she cried and fell over backward, startled. "Okay," Rapunzel admitted with a laugh. "That was a little more scary than fun." She sat down next to Pascal on the chair. No more tricks, she said. I promise. She glanced outside and saw that another flock of birds had made a whole new shape in front of the moon. Looking at it, she had an idea for some marmalade moon dress-up without the spookiness. Rapunzel gathered the things she needed, black and purple fabric, scissors, and a needle and thread, and got to work. No peeking, she said to Pascal. I'm making something for you too. Pascal seemed perfectly content to have a little quiet time. He had nearly dozed off when Rapunzel's voice woke him with a start. Well, how do I look? She looked just like a witch, wearing a witch's hat she'd made herself and holding an old broom. Witches love flying across the marmalade moon, especially with their little black cat. Here's your costume, she exclaimed, gently tying a pair of cat ears onto Pascal's head. Pascal did not seem amused, but Rapunzel loved the way both costumes had turned out. Perfect, she cried, clapping her hands joyfully in front of the mirror. Pascal cheered up when Rapunzel told him that the next part of their celebration was eating some sweet treats. He even seemed to warm up to his costume. So that night, high in a tower, deep in the woods, a friendly witch and her chameleon kitty enjoyed their very first spooky holiday together. There was an old lady who said trick or treat by Lucille Calandro. The old lady looks at the date. It's Halloween, time to celebrate. Find a pen and write a list. Check it twice so nothing is missed. Take a wagon into town. Hear the wheels bump up and down. Look, look, it's a pumpkin stand. Pick up two. Oh, how grand! Next a store with lots of treats, stickers, apples, yummy sweets. What a super candy shop! But what will be the next stop? Here's a store with a spooky sign. What can the old lady find? Spiderwebs and orange lights. 2 ghost balloons are just right. Now there is one more job to do. Old lady needs a costume too. First, try on a furry hat. The old lady looks like a cat. Too pointy. Here is a hat made out of hay. Will the wind blow it away? Too itchy. Next is a stripy, floppy hat. The old lady can't wear that. Too big. A witchy hat seems most fun. The old lady finally found one. Pack the wagon, don't be late. Now it's time to decorate. Carve the pumpkins, tie balloons. Hang up lights, play spooky tunes. Knock, knock, who wants a sweet? It's finally time for trick or treat. Crunch. Room on the Broom by Julia Donaldson. The witch had a cat and a hat that was black, and long ginger hair in a braid down her back. How the cat purred and how the witch grinned as they sat on their broomstick and flew through the wind. But how the witch wailed and how the cat spat when the wind blew so wildly it blew off the hat. Down, cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the hat, but no hat could be found. Then out of the bushes, on thundering paws, there bounded a dog with the hat in its jaws. He dropped it politely, then eagerly said, as the witch pulled the hat firmly down on her head, I am a dog as keen as can be. Is there room on the broom for a dog like me? Yes, cried the witch, and the dog clambered on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Over the fields and the forests they flew. The dog wagged his tail, and the stormy wind blew. The witch laughed out loud and held on to her hat. but away blew the bow from her braid, just like that. "Down!" cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the bow, but no bow could be found. Then out from a tree, with an ear-splitting shriek, there flapped a green bird with the bow in her beak. She dropped it politely and bent her head low, then said, as the witch tied her braid in the bow, "I am a bird as green as can be. Is there room on the broom for a bird like me?" "Yes," cried the witch. So the bird fluttered on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Over the reeds and the rivers they flew. The bird shrieked with glee, and the stormy wind blew. They shot through the sky to the back of beyond. The witch clutched her bow, but let go of her wand. "Down!" cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the wand, but no wand could be found. Then all of a sudden, from out of a pond leaped a dripping wet frog with a dripping wet wand. He dropped it politely, then said with a croak, as the witch dried the wand on a fold of her cloak, "I am a frog as clean as can be. Is there room on the broom for a frog like me?" "Yes," said the witch. So the frog bounded on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Over the moors and the mountains they flew. The frog jumped for joy, and what do you think happened? Uh-oh, the broom snapped in two. Down fell the cat and the dog and the frog. Down they went tumbling into a bog. The witch's half broomstick flew into a cloud, and the witch heard a roar that was scary and loud. "I am a dragon as mean as can be, and which with French fries tastes delicious to me." "No!" cried the witch, flying higher and higher. The dragon flew after her, breathing out fire. "Help!" cried the witch, flying down to the ground. She looked all around, but no help could be found. The dragon drew near with a glint in his eyes and said, "Just this once, I'll have witch without fries." But just as he planned to begin on his feast, from out of a ditch rose a horrible beast. It was tall, dark, and sticky, and feathered and furred. It had 4 frightful heads. It had wings like a bird. And its terrible voice, when it started to speak, was a yowl and a growl and a croak and a shriek. It dripped and it squelched as it strode from the ditch, and it said to the dragon, "Buzz off, that's my witch." The dragon drew back, and he started to shake. "I'm sorry," he sputtered. "I made a mistake. It's nice to have met you, but now I must fly." And he spread out his wings and was off through the sky. Then down flew the bird, and down jumped the frog. Down climbed the cat, and whew, said the dog. And "Thank you, oh thank you," the grateful witch cried. "Without you I'd be in that dragon's inside." Then she filled up her cauldron and said with a grin, "Find something, everyone, throw something in." So the frog found a lily, the cat found a cone, the bird found a twig, and the dog found a bone. They threw them all in, and the witch stirred them well. And while she was stirring, she muttered a spell. "Iggity, ziggity, zaggity, zoom!" Then out rose a truly magnificent broom, with seats for the witch and the cat and the dog, a nest for the bird and a pool for the frog. "Yes," cried the witch, and they all clambered on. The witch tapped a broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. The end. Millie Fleur Saves the Night by Christy Mandan. Garden Glen was afraid of the dark. Every evening, when the sun dipped below the horizon, the townspeople raced home and switched on their lights. Spotlight shone on prize-winning gardens. Lanterns lit the pathways. Every house and yard in Garden Glen was as bright as the midday sun. Every house except Millie, Fleur, LaFay's, of course. At the bottom of a scruffy hill at the edge of town, a lone street lamp glowed outside Millie Fleur's garden gate. To the people of Garden Glen, Millie Fleur's house was terribly dark and mysterious. But to Millie Fleur, it wasn't dark enough. Since she moved to town, Millie Fleur hadn't seen a single night creature. Her moon garden struggled to grow. "I have an idea," her mom said. She climbed up a ladder and removed the bulb from the street lamp. After they took care of that, Millie Fleur waited for the return of the dark and her other nighttime friends. But Garden Glen's Lantern Committee was not happy about Millie Fleur's unlit house. "It's dangerous," warned the mayor. "It's scary," said the city planner. "Who knows what the dark will bring with it," said the lantern keeper. "But the dark isn't scary," Millie Fleur assured them. "You just need to get to know her." Millie Fleur couldn't bear the thought of her friend feeling unwelcome. She got to work on a new plan. So she and her mother made some treats. Moon pies in hand, Millie Fleur marched right up to the edge of the deep, dark woods. "You are always welcome in my garden," she whispered gently to the dark. With Millie Fleur in the dark leading the way, the creatures of the night set off for Millie Fleur's garden. In the garden, a spider quietly spun her silk, while bats fluttered and flapped on the breeze. The crickets and the katydids played their gentle chorus while the dark told tales of the night. Millie Fleur's moon garden sprang to life all around them. The sweet smell of Millie Fleur's moonflowers, snoozing sugar plums, and twilight tulips drifted across the glen, enchanting her neighbors. Lanterns in hand, they followed the scent to Millie Fleur's house. As the light from the lanterns came closer, the dark and all her friends hid away. "I'll take care of you," Millie Fleur promised. Millie Fleur's neighbors were eager to see the perfumed plants growing in her garden. "Behind my gates lies a world you've been missing, but you'll have to put down your lanterns to see it," Millie Fleur told them. "You'll have to be brave." They were nervous to leave their lanterns behind. Their imaginations ran wild. What might happen if they met the dark? But the delightful smell coming from the moon garden was irresistible. Gathering all their courage, they put out their lanterns and waited. "It's okay to come out now," Millie Fleur whispered. Under the safety of the dark, mushrooms lit the path to Millie Fleur's moon garden. Glowworms hung in luminous strands from the trees. Fireflies blinked happily. Millie Fleur's garden sparkled. The kids were a bit shy around the dark at first, but the more they got to know her, the more they realized there were things the dark could share that couldn't be found in the light. One by one, the lights around Garden Glen began to go out. Moon gardens sprang up all over town. The creatures of the night made themselves at home. And from that day on, Garden Glen was friend of the dark. Millie Fleur had saved the night. This is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Back when Manhattan was just a tiny town, the village of Sleepy Hollow sat along a bend of the Hudson. Peaceful and a bit foreboding, the village is now home to a variety of superstitions and legends. The best-known story, though, is about a former schoolmaster named Ichabod Crane. The story begins late one autumn afternoon when this unusual man first appeared in Sleepy Hollow. Tall and lanky, Ichabod Crane wandered into town reading a book, oblivious to the commotion he'd soon cause. A group of men, known around town as the Sleepy Hollow Boys, was gathered at ye old Snooker and Schnapp shop. Broom Bones, the group's self-appointed leader, was riding in to join his friends when he caught sight of Ichabod entering the village. He called, "Yahoo!" causing all the townspeople to take notice of the newcomer. Ichabod didn't notice the curious townsfolk watching him at first. He was too focused on making sure not to walk under a ladder or let a black cat cross his path. Ichabod was a very superstitious fellow. But soon the chatter made him look up from his book. "It's the new schoolmaster!" someone shouted from a window. "Ichabod Crane," he said, introducing himself with a bow. Despite his quirky entrance to town, Ichabod quickly fit into his role at the school and became known as a good teacher. He was strict when he needed to be, and he tried to stay on good terms with all his students, especially those whose mothers were good cooks. All in all, Ichabod was fitting into Sleeping Hollow quite well, and he began to like his life in the village. But then came that fateful day when Katrina Van Tassel, the only child of the rich farmer Baltus Van Tassel, entered Ichabod's life. She was one of the most beautiful women in the village, and she had many suitors vying for her hand in marriage. Ichabod was in the park when the Van Tassels rode through town, and after just one look at Katrina, he was immediately enchanted by her. It wasn't long before she had captured his heart. After their first meeting, Ichabod could think of nothing but the beautiful Katrina. He couldn't focus on his classroom or his lesson plans or even social outings anymore. He just daydreamed about when he could next see his new love. Ichabod believed he had a better chance of winning Katrina's heart than the simple country folk of Sleepy Hollow. But there was one person who wasn't too keen on this idea, Mr. Broom Bones, for he too was taken with the lovely Katrina. Katrina did not like how Broom easily shooed away most of her suitors. All, in fact, except for Ichabod. That is why he interested her. Never had a man not cowered before Broom, and Katrina quite liked Ichabod's fearlessness. One day, Katrina showed her affection for Ichabod after he lent her a helping hand, and Broom was pushed aside. But Broom wasn't going to give up easily. Later, as Ichabod helped Katrina step safely over a stream, Broom rode toward them on his horse, sweeping Katrina off her feet and knocking Ichabod into the muddy water. However, as they were riding away, Katrina tossed the schoolmaster her handkerchief, restoring his confidence and further intensifying his love for her. Believing Katrina was his one true love, Ichabod raced towards her father's farm. There he proudly presented her with her handkerchief, tied neatly in a bow. Surprised and impressed, Katrina let Ichabod, not Broom, take her hand and walk her up to the house. Unfortunately for Broom, his humiliation continued after they walked ahead. He tripped over a gate, stumbled over a loose potato, and a bag of apples even fell on his head. Broom did not enjoy being made to look like a fool, and the more Katrina laughed at him, the more determined he became to make the schoolmaster pay for his embarrassment. After Ichabod kissed Katrina's hand in farewell, he left the Van Tassel house to find Broom ready for a fight. Before Broom could cause trouble, Katrina opened the upstairs window and waved goodbye to the men. Each wanting to put his best foot forward, the men waved and smiled, pretending nothing was wrong. The day before her father's annual Halloween dance, Katrina decided to invite both Broom and Ichabod to the party. She was hoping to stir up their rivalry a bit more. Ichabod prided himself on his dancing skills, so when he arrived at the party, he immediately asked Katrina to join him on the dance floor. The picture of grace, Ichabod and Katrina had a lovely time together, and Ichabod was sure she was falling in love with him. In contrast, Broom Bones was having a decidedly bad time at the Halloween party, and try as he might, he could not keep Katrina and Ichabod apart. After multiple failed attempts to cut in or find a new dance partner for Ichabod, Broom found himself outside the house. glaring in at the festivities and feeling utterly defeated. Returning inside, Broom walked into the kitchen to find Ichabod preparing a large plate of food for himself. Broom watched as Ichabod knocked over a salt shaker and then quickly threw the fallen salt over his left shoulder. Broom realized Ichabod must be an extremely superstitious man. Knowing he could take advantage of this, Broom snuck off to put his plan in motion. When Mr. Van Tassel called on his guests to tell spooky stories befitting the holiday, Broom knew this was his chance. "The ghosts are bad, but the one that's cursed is the headless horseman. He's the worst," Broom began, introducing his tale. As Ichabod listened, his superstitious nature took over, and he began to fear the curse of Sleepy Hollow. Broom continued, getting increasingly animated as Ichabod grew more and more afraid. He described a creature who held his flaming pumpkin head in his hand while riding on his horse. "He rides one night each year in the witching hour to find a head in the hollow here," Broom warned as he impersonated the horseman. "The headless horseman needs a head." As the story continued, Ichabod became more unnerved with each sentence. "Now if you doubt this tale is so, I met that ghost just a year ago. Now I didn't stop for a second look, but made for the bridge that spans the brook. For once you've crossed that bridge, my friend, the ghost is through, his power ends," Broom finished. His story received cheers from the crowd, but his true prize was seeing the look of fear in Ichabod's eyes. At the very witching hour Broom's tale warned of, the party was over and it was time to go home. It was a dark, quiet night in the village, and to get home, Ichabod had to head straight through the hollow Broom had spoken of in his tale. The schoolmaster had never been more afraid. Every screech, rustle, and echo made him jump. He was soon convinced the headless horseman was after him. Ichabod quickly hid behind a log, before realizing that what he'd thought were horse hoofs hitting the ground were actually cattails hitting the log. Relieved, Ichabod began to laugh at his foolishness. Until an evil laugh broke through Ichabod's joy, silencing him and making him shake. He looked up to see the headless horseman from Broom's tale. Terrified, Ichabod and his horse jumped up and took off back into the woods. They rode through water and jumped from tall heights. They tried to hide behind thick bushes, but no matter what they did, Ichabod and his horse could not get the headless horseman off their tail. As they raced from the ghost, something Broom had said popped into Ichabod's mind. "Once you've crossed that bridge, my friend, the ghost is through, his power ends." Taking a chance, Ichabod steered his horse towards the bridge. The horse galloped with all his might. With the horseman right behind him, Ichabod and his horse made it to the bridge. They slowed down at the other end, panting with relief. Ichabod looked up, expecting no longer to see the terrifying horseman now that he had gotten to safety. But not only was the horseman still there, but he raised his arm and flung his flaming pumpkin head straight over the bridge, right towards Ichabod. The next day, all that remained by the bridge was a smashed pumpkin and Ichabod's hat. The schoolmaster was nowhere to be seen. Not long after Halloween night, Katrina and Brom Bones were married. And as for Ichabod, no one really knows what happened to the schoolmaster. Some say he left town, married a wealthy woman, and started a family. But others are convinced they know the truth, that he was taken by the headless horseman that very Halloween night. What do you think, babies? Do you think he escaped? Ooh, I don't know. Whew. And with that, we're finally finished, both with the stories and the build. What do you think? Isn't this the cutest little haunted house you've ever seen? I can't decide what my favorite part of this little house is. Is it the figurines or is it the cute little bat at the top? I don't know. What do you think? What's your favorite part, babies? Thank you so much for being here with me, my sweet babies. I love you all so much. Happy Halloween. Bye.